The scent of old paper and forgotten rain, that's what always brings it back. Not the smell of dust or decay, but something softer, melancholic, like a memory trying to surface through a fog. I'm almost 68 now, my hair a silver crown. My hands etched with the stories of a life lived, but not perhaps entirely well. There are moments when a particular melody on the radio, a flash of sunlight through the kitchen window, or the quiet hum of the can transport me back, not just years but decades, to a choice, a single definitive word that echoed through my younger self and, unbeknownst to me then, would reverberate through every subsequent year, every joy, every sorrow. It was a simple word, really, 3 letters. But its weight, its consequence has been anything but simple. It was the word I said to my soulmate, the word that changed everything. I often wonder if there's a cosmic ledger, a grand tally of all the what-ifs, the roads not taken, the whispers that went unheard. If there is, my entry would likely be etched in bold, perhaps even underlined in red. It's a story I've kept largely to myself, a silent companion through sleepless nights and contemplative afternoons. But lately, as the years accumulate and the horizon of my life draws closer, there's a growing urgency to share it. Not for absolution, perhaps, but for understanding. For anyone who might be standing at their own crossroads, contemplating their own 3-letter word. It started, as most significant stories do, rather innocently. His name was Arthur Thorne. I met him in the summer of 1978, a time when the world felt both boundless and intimately small. I was 22, fresh out of college, brimming with an idealism that, looking back, was both charming and terribly naive. I envisioned a life of grand adventures, a career that would change the world, a love story that would defy all conventions. Arthur, on the other hand, was 25, a quiet, thoughtful man with eyes that held the wisdom of ancient forests and a smile that could melt the most stubborn frost. He was an aspiring architect, already sketching designs that spoke of harmony and light, far beyond the concrete boxes that dominated the era. We met at a local art fair, both lingering in front of a particularly vibrant landscape painting. He turned to me, a shy smile gracing his lips, and made a comment about the artist's use of color. An hour later, we were still talking, the art fair a blur around us, the world narrowing to just him and me. There was an immediate, undeniable current between us, a sense of recognition, as if our souls had known each other long before our bodies ever met. It wasn't the fiery, passionate intensity one reads about in novels, though that came later. It was a profound sense of ease, a feeling of coming home. With Arthur, I didn't have to pretend, didn't have to perform. He saw me, truly saw me, in a way no one ever had before. My quirks, my ambitions, my fears. He embraced them all with a quiet acceptance that disarmed me. We spent that summer intertwined, exploring hidden trails, sharing late-night conversations under a blanket of stars, dreaming aloud of futures that seemed to effortlessly merge. He spoke of designing houses that felt like havens, of building communities where people could truly thrive. I spoke of writing, of giving voice to the voiceless, of capturing the human spirit in words. Our dreams, though different in form, shared a common thread, a desire to create beauty, to contribute something meaningful to the world. Our connection deepened with each passing day. It was a love that wasn't loud or dramatic, but rather a slow, steady burn, a warmth that permeated every aspect of my being. He made me laugh, challenged my perspectives, and most importantly, he made me feel utterly, completely safe. We spoke of marriage, of a future together, of children whose laughter would fill our home. It wasn't a question of if, but when. Everyone around us saw it too. My parents, initially cautious, quickly warmed to Arthur, charmed by his gentle demeanor and his unwavering devotion to me. My friends joked about us being an old married couple already. So comfortable and attuned were we to each other's rhythms. But then, as it often does, life threw a curveball. A prestigious writing fellowship opened up in New York City, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that I had secretly coveted for years. It was a chance to immerse myself in the literary world, to hone my craft, to truly make a name for myself. The application process was grueling, the competition fierce. I poured my heart and soul into it, fueled by the conviction that this was my path, my destiny. When the acceptance letter arrived, thick and official, it felt like a validation of every dream I'd ever held. My name, Clara, emblazoned on the page, seemed to shimmer with promise. I remember the evening I told Arthur. We were sitting on his porch swing, the cicadas chirping their nightly symphony. The air was heavy with the scent of honeysuckle, a fragrance that now, decades, still carries a bittersweet pang. I held the letter, folded neatly in my hand, my heart thrumming with a mixture of exhilaration and trepidation. I stammered through the explanation, highlighting the prestige of the program, the connections I would make, the doors it would open. He listened, his gaze fixed on the distant trees, his expression unreadable. When I finally finished, the silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Then he turned to me, his eyes filled with a sadness that pierced me to the, "So you're going," he said, his voice barely a whisper. I nodded, my throat. "It's a huge opportunity, Arthur. It's what I've always wanted." He took my hand, his touch warm and familiar. "And what about us, Clara? Is this what we always wanted?" The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken possibilities, with futures diverging. I knew what he was asking. He wasn't asking me to choose between him and my dream, not explicitly. He was asking if my dream was big enough to encompass us both, or if it would demand a sacrifice. I loved Arthur truly, with every fiber of my being, but the allure of New York, the promise of a glittering literary career, felt like an irresistible siren song. I was young, ambitious, and perhaps a little selfish. I believed I could have it all. I believed our love was strong enough to withstand anything, even distance, even time. He had hinted at moving with me, at finding work in New York, at building our life there. But I, in my youthful arrogance, dismissed it. "No," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. "This is my journey, Arthur. I need to do this alone. To prove myself." The word hung in the air, a bell tolling the end of something precious. His hand tightened on mine for a fleeting moment, then released, a silent acknowledgement of the chasm I had just created. He didn't argue, didn't plead. He simply nodded, a slow, deliberate movement that spoke volumes. "I understand," he said, his voice flat. But I knew he didn't. Not really. Or perhaps I didn't want him to, because if he truly understood, if he truly saw the depth of my ambition, he might have seen the fragility of my commitment. The next few weeks were a blur of packing, farewells, and a growing sense of detachment. I avoided Arthur's gaze, afraid of what I would see there. Accusation, pain, a reflection of my own burgeoning regret. We said our goodbyes at the train station, a perfunctory hug, a mumbled promise to write. His eyes, usually so full of warmth, were distant, almost opaque. I stepped onto the train, a knot of unease twisting in my stomach, but the excitement for my new life quickly pushed it down. I was going to New York. I was going to be a writer. I was going to conquer the world. What could possibly be wrong with that? New York was everything I had imagined and more, a vibrant, pulsating city that hummed with energy and possibility. The fellowship was demanding, exhilarating. I met brilliant minds, wrote feverishly, felt the exhilarating rush of words flowing onto the page. I threw myself into my work, determined to justify my choice, to prove that I had made the right decision. Arthur and I exchanged letters initially, formal at first, then gradually warmer, filled with updates about our respective lives. He was sketching new designs, winning small commissions. I was publishing articles in literary journals. But the intimacy, the effortless connection we once shared, began to fray at the edges. The distance, both geographical and emotional, widened with each passing. One day, a letter arrived from his mother, a short, polite note, informing me that Arthur had met someone else. A fellow architect, she wrote, a lovely young woman named Eleanor. They were engaged. The words hit me with the force of a physical blow. I reread the letter, my hands trembling, the elegant script blurring before my engaged. It was over, truly irrevocably over. A wave of nausea washed over me, followed by a searing pain in my chest. It was then, in that moment, that the true weight of my no crashed down upon me. It wasn't just a rejection of his offer to move, but a rejection of us, of the life we had planned, the future we had envisioned. I cried for days, a raw, guttural grief that surprised me with its intensity. I had pushed him away, confident in my own path, and now the consequences were staring me in the face. The glittering promise of New York suddenly seemed dull, the literary world a hollow echo. I realized with a horrifying clarity that I had chased a dream, but in doing so, I had sacrificed a reality that was infinitely more precious. I had chosen ambition over connection, potential over presence, and now he was gone, lost to me forever. Years passed. My writing career flourished, though perhaps not as spectacularly as I had once envisioned. I published a few novels, received some critical acclaim, but the profound sense of fulfillment I had always sought remained elusive. I had relationships, some serious, some fleeting, but none ever came close to the depth and understanding I had shared with Arthur. Each time I thought I was falling in love, a ghost of his smile, A memory of his gentle touch would surface, reminding me of what I had lost. I became adept at building walls, at keeping people at a comfortable distance, afraid of risking another heartbreak, afraid of being truly seen again. Because to be seen, truly seen, meant remembering how Arthur had seen me, and how I had turned away. My parents, bless their hearts, never said, "I told you so," but I could see the unspoken questions in their eyes, the quiet concern. They saw the success, but they also saw the underlying loneliness, the subtle melancholy that had settled upon me like a fine dust. They knew the story, of course, or at least the version I had allowed them to. They knew about Arthur, about the fellowship, about my choice. They simply wished for my happiness, a happiness that, despite my achievements, felt perpetually out of reach. I never saw Arthur again after that train station goodbye. I followed his career from a distance, through articles and architectural, through the occasional mention in conversations with mutual acquaintances. He became a highly respected architect, known for his innovative, sustainable designs that blended seamlessly with nature. He built beautiful, functional spaces just as he had dreamed. He had children, a son and a daughter, whose photographs occasionally surfaced on social media, looking so much like him, with that same quiet strength in their eyes. His life, it seemed, had unfolded beautifully, exactly as it should have. And I, in my solitary corner, watched it all, a silent observer of the life I could have had. The regret, like a persistent shadow, followed me through the decades. It wasn't a crippling, all-consuming despair, but rather a dull ache, a constant hum beneath the surface of my everyday life. It manifested in small ways, a pang of envy when I saw an elderly couple holding hands, a wistful sigh at a particularly romantic movie scene, a quiet contemplation of what my own children might have looked like, what their voices might have sounded like. I had chosen my path, and it had brought me a certain measure of success, but it had also left a gaping hole in my heart, a space that Arthur had once. As I crossed the threshold into my 50s, the regret deepened. The urgency of youth, the relentless pursuit of achievement, began to recede, replaced by a more reflective, introspective gaze. I started to question the values that had driven me, the choices I had made. Was the climb to the top worth the view from the solitary peak? Had I truly found meaning in my work? Or had it merely been a distraction from the deeper longing for connection? I realized that the profound sense of ease, the feeling of coming home that I had experienced with Arthur, was something truly rare, a gift I had carelessly tossed aside. The world outside my window continued to spin, faster and faster it seemed. Technology advanced, generations shifted, but the core human needs, for love, for belonging, for connection, remained constant. And I, in my quiet home, found myself increasingly drawn to memories, to the echoes of a past that now seemed both impossibly distant and painfully. I would sit for hours, sifting through old photographs, yellowed letters, tangible remnants of a life that had been, and a life that could have been. One afternoon, a few years ago, I stumbled upon a box in the attic, tucked away beneath old blankets and forgotten holiday decorations. Inside, nestled amongst dried flowers and faded ribbons, was a small, leather-bound journal. It was Arthur's. He had given it to me that summer, a gift for my 23rd birthday. I had completely forgotten about it. My fingers traced the intricate tooling on the cover, a wave of emotion washing over me. I opened it, my heart pounding, half expecting to find his elegant script, his thoughtful observations. But it wasn't his handwriting. It was mine. Turns out, it was a journal I had started that summer, filled with my own thoughts, my own dreams, my own observations about Arthur. Page after page, I had poured out my heart, documenting our conversations, his gentle gestures, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. I wrote about the profound sense of connection, the feeling that he was the missing piece of my puzzle. I wrote about how safe he made me feel, how he encouraged my dreams even as he shared his own. And then, there it was, on a particularly faded page, written in a hand that seemed both familiar and alien. He asked me to marry. Today, I said yes. My heart feels so full, so utterly complete. I can't imagine a life without him. The words were a punch to the gut. I had said yes. In that journal, in that moment, I had committed to him, to us. But then, the very next entry, dated a few weeks later, after the fellowship offer, I told him about New York. He wants to come with me, but I need to do this alone. I need to prove myself. I told him no. It broke my heart to say it, but I have to do this. The irony was almost unbearable. I had written yes in the privacy of my own thoughts, in the sacred space of my journal, only to utter no when it truly mattered. It wasn't a contradiction of feeling, but a clash of desires. My heart had said yes, but my ambition, my fear of being tethered, had overridden it. I had been so convinced that my personal journey required solitude, that true success could only be achieved independently. I had believed that love, true love, would simply wait. Reading those entries, seeing the raw emotion of my younger self, was like looking into a distorted mirror. I saw the girl I was, full of hope and fear, caught between two powerful forces, and I saw the path I had chosen, the path that had led me to this quiet, solitary existence. The tears came then, not just for Arthur, but for that girl, for the dreams she had sacrificed, for the wisdom she had yet to gain. And so here I am, almost 68. The scent of old paper and forgotten rain still brings it back. I've learned that life isn't about conquering the world, but about connecting with it. It's not about achieving grand successes, but about finding profound meaning in the everyday. It's about the quiet moments, the shared laughter, the comforting presence of another soul. I have achieved a certain level of success, yes, but it often feels like an empty victory, a beautiful house built on a foundation of longing. I don't know if Arthur ever thought of me, if he ever regretted the path we didn't take. I hope he found true happiness, a happiness unmarred by the ghost of a past. I hope Eleanor was everything he deserved, everything I wasn't brave enough to be. Sometimes I imagine running into him, perhaps at a bookstore, or a quiet coffee shop. What would I say? Would I apologize? Would I explain? Would he even remember the girl who said no? The truth is, there's no going back. No undoing the choices made, the words spoken. But there is, I believe, a path forward. A path of acceptance, of forgiveness, both for myself and for the younger, more foolish version of me. The pain of that regret, though still present, has softened over time. It's no longer a raw wound, but a scar, a reminder of a profound lesson learned. A lesson about valuing presence over potential, connection over ambition, and the quiet dignity of a shared life over the glittering promise of a solitary one. To anyone out there listening to this story, perhaps standing at your own crossroads, contemplating your own three-letter word, I offer this. Listen to your heart. Truly listen. The world will always offer glittering opportunities, exciting adventures, paths that promise fame and fortune. But the most precious treasures are often found in the quiet corners, in the unwavering gaze of a loving soul, in the simple joy of shared moments. Don't let ambition blind you to the beauty of what is already yours. Don't let fear of missing out on one thing make you miss out on everything that truly matters. Is there still time? That's a question I ask myself frequently. Time to heal, to connect, to find new meaning. I believe there is. The journey of life, even after 50, even after 60, is still unfolding. It's never too late to learn, to grow, to open your heart to new possibilities, even if they don't look exactly like the ones you once envisioned. My story is a testament to the weight of time and choices, to the enduring power of regret, but also, I hope, to the possibility of redemption. Not in changing the past, but in embracing the present with wisdom and grace. It's about understanding that every choice, every word, shapes the landscape of our lives. Choose wisely, my friends. Choose with your heart. If this story resonated with you, if it made you pause and reflect on your own journey, your own choices, then please, consider subscribing to Pure Emotion, Life After 50. Activate the notification bell so you don't miss our next story. A story that might just offer the comfort, connection, and reflection you're seeking. Share your thoughts in the comments below. We are a community dedicated to understanding, to healing, and to finding meaning in every chapter of life. Your story, your reflections matter here.